The Late Show studio hummed with a warm, lively charge as Stephen Colbert stepped to his desk, his grin bright and earnest, his energy a beacon that lit the room with wit and heart. The audience roaring their welcome with a cheer that shook the walls, a wave of sound that promised a night of sharp truth and real laughs. Across from him sat Elon Musk, the billionaire mogul with a slick, tousled look, his posture slouched but his eyes cold, a glint of arrogance simmering in them. A guest, whose presence loomed with wealth and power, his hands resting smugly on the chair, ready to dominate. The crowd, a mix of Colbert's loyal fans and Musk's tech-obsessed followers, clapped and shouted, their anticipation a tense pulse, their voices rising in a swell, eager for Colbert's keen insight to cut through Musk's bravado. A clash, brewing beneath the surface, one that would ignite into a fiery confrontation and see Musk kicked off. Colbert standing tall for the room. Colbert launched in with his signature grace, his voice clear and steady. "Folks, we've got a big guest tonight, Elon Musk, the guy who's got more money than most countries and a plan to ditch us all for Mars." His words tinged with a knowing smile, a nod to the crowd that drew hearty laughter. The room buzzing with trust in Colbert's knack for calling it straight. A champion for the regular folks watching. Musk smirked, leaning back. "Stephen, I'm saving humanity. One rocket at a time, you're welcome." His tone dripping with condescension. A quip that landed flat, the audience murmuring, some clapping weakly, their unease with his swagger, a quiet thread through the set. A hint of a man too big for the room. Colbert raised an eyebrow. "Saving us, huh? Still flaunting that billionaire glow like it's our privilege to watch, Elon?" His jab gentle but firm. A stand for fairness. The crowd chuckling, the mood tight. A sparring match with a purpose, at least for now. The talk pushed forward, Colbert guiding it to SpaceX. "So, Elon, this Mars idea, you're serious about colonizing it? Or is it just a playground for the ultra-rich to escape us peasants?" His question wrapped in a grin, a wink to the camera, the audience laughing, their applause a steady hum, a warm nod to Colbert's fight for the little guy. Musk shrugged. "It's serious, Stephen. Earth's a mess. I'm building the future. Mars is where it's at." His reply smug, a touch of disdain breaking through, the crowd shifting. Some clapping faintly, others frowning, their discomfort with his aloofness growing, a sign of a man who'd lost touch with the ground. Colbert leaned forward. "The future, huh? What about us stuck here, footing the bill for your cosmic joyride? Ever think of that?" His tone still light but piercing, a spark in his eyes, a question dangling like a challenge, begging the thought, was this just humor? Or a stand for something bigger? The air stiffened, Musk's smirk fading, his fingers tapping the armrest. "Oh, Stephen, you're whining about bills now, huh? Stick to comedy. Leave the vision to me." His voice cool, edged with scorn. A barb that stung, the audience gasping, some booing softly, others leaning in, sensing the turn. The tension coiling quick and fierce, a spring ready to snap. Colbert's smile tightened. "Comedy, sure, Elon, but I'm not the one dodging reality with a private planet." His retort swift, grounded, a hint of steel slipping in, the crowd cheering, some clapping hard, their faith in him surging, the room tilting toward something raw, something just. Could Colbert keep the moral high ground, or had Musk just lit a fuse that would burn them both? The crowd's cheers for Stephen Colbert swelled into a steady roar, their faith in his sharp, grounded wit a lifeline in the Late Show studio. The air growing taut as Elon Musk's dismissive barb hung there, his smirk replaced by a thin, smug line, his fingers now drumming the armrest with a restless edge, his cold eyes flicking over the audience like they were beneath him, a mogul ready to bulldoze anything in his path. Colbert sat steady, his grin fading into a firm resolve, his voice cutting through the hum. "Dodging reality, Elon. That's rich coming from a guy who thinks Mars fixes everything while we're still here picking up the pieces. His words. Crisp. A jab that landed with purpose. The audience clapping hard, some whooping, their support a wall behind him. The room a battleground where Musk's arrogance was starting to show cracks. A tension simmering hotter with every breath. Musk leaned forward, his tone icy. "Oh, Stephen, you're so noble, huh? Crying for the little people while I'm out there solving problems. Maybe stick to your jokes." His retort dripping with disdain, a shove that dismissed the room. The crowd booing louder now, some shouting, their unease turning to anger. A wave crashing against his swagger. The clash bursting into something fierce, something undeniable. Colbert's eyes flashed. "Jokes, sure, but at least I'm not pretending my bank account makes me a savior. You're solving problems for who, Elon? Yourself?" His reply a thunderbolt, fierce but fair, a stand for the audience. Their cheers, erupting, some standing. The studio shaking with their backing. A host calling out a titan. A fight that felt righteous, raw. A wound Musk couldn't shrug off. A blaze he'd stoked too far. The confrontation roared on, Musk's hands slashing the air. "You don't get it, Stephen. I'm building the future. You're stuck in the past, whining about fairness. It's pathetic." His voice rising. A snarl of entitlement. His patience. Snapping, the crowd jeering, their boos a storm, some yelling, their loyalty to Colbert solidifying. The air heavy with a fury that pressed down, a tempest breaking wide open. Colbert stayed calm, his voice steady. "The future, huh? Sounds like a fancy excuse to leave us behind. I'm not whining, I'm watching out for them. Something you forgot." His words a shield, a nod to the seats, the audience roaring, their applause a tidal wave, a host holding the line. Musk's scorn fueling their fire. A clash that burned bright. A battle where one man stood for the room, the other for himself. A divide too wide to bridge. The breaking point slammed in, Musk surging to his feet, his chair scraping back with a harsh grind, his voice booming. "I don't need this, Stephen. You're a clown. I'm done with your sanctimonious garbage." His hands ripping off the mic, the cord flailing as he glared, his face twisted with rage, his billionaire sheen cracking. "Keep your little show. I've got better things to do." His footsteps stomping as he stormed off stage, the crowd's boos thundering, some cheering. Colbert a swell of noise that shook the set, Musk's exit a blaze of arrogance undone, a jolt that left the room reeling. Colbert sat back, his hands raised. "Elon, take care. Mars won't miss you." His voice cool, a parting shot that landed soft but sure. A host unshaken. The audience erupting, a wave of support crashing over him. A confrontation that had flared and burned out, leaving Musk exposed. Colbert poised to reclaim the night. A stand for the people still echoing in the air. The Late Show studio thundered with the crowd's boos and cheers as Elon Musk's stomping footsteps faded off stage. The air crackling with a raw electric charge. The lights sharp against the set. The audience a surging tide of anger and triumph. Their noise a jagged roar that pulsed through the seats. A wave of voices lifted in defiance against Musk's arrogance. Their faith locked on Stephen Colbert, who sat steady at his desk, his hands resting calm, his face a blend of resolve and quiet strength. His breath even as he faced the empty chair, the dangling mic. A trophy of a clash won, a host who'd stood for them against a billionaire's scorn. A night tipped upside down, now his to turn into a victory for the room. A triumph rooted in heart and grit. Backstage, the chaos erupted, crew members darting through the wings, their headsets buzzing with frantic chatter, their phones glowing as Musk's exit sent shockwaves racing. He'd shoved past a producer's outstretched hand, his coat flapping as he snarled under his breath, his voice a bitter growl vanishing out the door. A man whose ego had cracked under Colbert's steady fire, his departure a blaze that wouldn't quiet the storm he'd left. Whispers flew fast, staff muttering. Musk had been prickly from the jump, pacing before the show, his nerves taut from Colbert's reputation for cutting through fluff. The confrontation a spark that had torched his cool, clips already flooding. Online, "I'm done with your sanctimonious garbage." A viral flare, some bashing his tantrum, others hailing Colbert's stand. The digital tide swelling, but the spotlight held firm on Colbert. The set his ground, the crowd his strength, a moment to shine as the people's voice, a test he'd ace with grace. Colbert leaned into the mic, his voice smooth and sure. "Well, folks, looks like Elon's off to colonize the green room. Guess he didn't like the view from Earth." His tone light but pointed, a quip that drew a swell of laughter. Loud and warm, the audience exhaling, some clapping, others cheering. A lifeline he tossed that they grabbed tight, a host turning a blowout into a bond, his hands steady as he leaned on the desk. The tension melting, a spark of unity flickering bright. He didn't harp on Musk's meltdown, didn't stoke the fire, instead weaving it into a riff. "I thought we'd talk rockets, not launch one off stage. My mistake." His grin a bridge, mimicking Musk's mic toss with a chuckle. The crowd's laughter booming, their applause surging. A wave he rode with ease, a recovery that turned a fracture into a win. Musk's rage fading under Colbert's calm. A shift that felt real, earned, a stand they shared with every laugh. The vibe lifted, Colbert pivoting clean, his voice rising. "Okay, let's move on. We've got a show to do. You folks ready for some fun?" His question, a hand outstretched, his smile warm, unwavering. The audience roaring back, their cheers a storm that shook the studio. Some standing, others shouting. A collective surge that tied them to his fight. A triumph forged in the rubble. Not over Musk's fall, but in the night's rise. A seamless arc from clash to joy that needed no grudge, just truth and rhythm. The segment flowed forward. The crowd's buzz a steady heartbeat. Their trust in him a rock. Some nodding, others beaming. A night that had teetered on chaos now standing firm. Colbert's command a light. Musk's exit a memory. The set alive. With a victory he'd pulled from the fray, step by deft step. A host who'd turned a showdown into a showcase. The break nearing as a pause in a tale already claimed. The break dissolved, and the late show studio roared back to life, the lights casting a vibrant glow over Stephen Colbert at his desk. The crowd's energy a mighty surge that thundered through the seats. Their earlier shock now a distant whisper. Their cheers a tidal wave that crashed against the walls. A salute to a night wrested from Elon Musk's arrogant exit. A victory pulsing in their applause. A shared stand that lit the room with pride and fire. Colbert stood tall, his posture easy, his grin wide and true, his eyes gleaming with a quiet strength. A host who'd faced a billionaire's tantrum and turned it into a win for the everyman. The audience locked on him, their hands clapping, their voices soaring, eager to see him seal a show that had danced on the edge of chaos and emerged sharper, a tale of principle over privilege unfolding in real time, a triumph earned with wit and heart. Colbert didn't linger on Musk's meltdown, didn't fan the flames for easy points, instead riding the wave with a warmth that filled the space, his voice steady. "Well, folks, we've had a little turbulence. Elon took off faster than his rockets, but we're still here, right?" His chuckle a spark that reignited their spirit. The crowd laughing, some whooping, a release that bridged the night's rift. A host turning a storm into a story they owned, his hands gesturing calm, his resolve a thread that wove them close. Musk's scorn a shadow fading under his light, a pivot that kept the show alive, their buzz a heartbeat that thrummed through the set, a night reclaimed not by bitterness, but by doing, a rhythm they followed with every cheer, every nod. The online storm churned beyond the studio, clips of Musk's "I'm done with your sanctimonious garbage," and Colbert's quip racing across screens, a viral blaze that split the chatter, some slamming Musk's ego, others praising Colbert's backbone, the noise stretching the night's reach, a saga echoing far past the walls. A win for the host who'd stood firm. Musk's team stayed silent, no words to douse the fire, while Colbert's crew watched the views climb. His steady hand a hook that held, a triumph sealed in the moment, the clash a stepping stone to his shine, a tale that landed clean, real, just. On stage, Colbert brought out the musical guest, the band's lively notes washing over the room, a bright current that lifted the crowd, their bodies swaying, their applause a steady pulse, the night's raw edge softening into a glow they could carry, a close that wrapped tight and true, a win born from standing tall, not striking back. The clock wound down, Colbert taking his final stand, alone under the lights, his presence a beacon that held the space with unshakable grace, his voice rich with gratitude. You folks are the heart of this. Thanks for sticking with me. Hit that like button if you felt it. Subscribe for more real nights. His call a natural cap. The room bursting into a standing ovation. A roar that rattled the rafters. A tribute to a host who'd turned a blowout into brilliance, step by steady step. The cameras sweeping wide, catching faces lit with pride. Some buzzing, others beaming. All bound to a night that ended bold and clear. Musk's arrogance a memory. Colbert's triumph a fire that burned bright. The screen fading to black. A perfect close to a show that soared. A nudge to join the fight. A legacy of truth over bluster, sealed in their cheers. Hey, if you love this stand, smash that like, subscribe, and stick with us for more.